to some of the organizers earlier, and it seems we have already surpassed the number that was collected last year, doubled what was collected last year. So a round of applause to everyone who contributed. And as you know, the funds collected tonight from this gala dinner are also contributions towards the Syrian refugee blanket and coat drive. So thank you all for taking time and being here tonight. I don't want to take too long because we're going to have our dinner first, but before we do that, I'd like to invite the Executive Director of American Turkish Friendship Association to make his welcoming remarks, and then we can start our dinner. So please welcome Mr. Vaner Kaplan to make his welcoming remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure and great honor having you all with us tonight. Thank you so much for coming. First and foremost, I think I would like to thank you all for coming here tonight and being with us at this meaningful evening. I want to especially thank to Maersk, as well to Paxton companies. Let's start with another way. I want to thank to Northern Virginia Regional Commission, counties of Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, and Arlington. They did a great job. I really appreciate their job. Thank you so much for them all. I also want to thank Maersk, Paxton companies, Embrace Relief, Kimse Yok Mu, which was impossible for us to have done with that great job. They did collect all blankets here in almost nationwide. They are going to ship them to Turkey and they will distribute them in Turkey. Thank you so much for them all. And also many thanks. Yes, please. And also many thanks to churches. There are more than 100 churches just in Northern Virginia. Churches, synagogues, mosques, masjids, community centers, libraries, as well the volunteers, which was impossible again without their very, eager helps. Thank you so much for them all. And of course, there are many others. I would like to express my gratitude to all volunteers, to everyone who took part in this campaign. And I think we shouldn't forget the group of people who visited Turkey. And while they were in Turkey, they visit Syrian refugee camps. And they've been asked by a Syrian father if he can help them out by sending some blankets. And those groups, some of them with us tonight, I would like to thank them too. And from that time, since then, this is third year of this campaign, and this year I think we did much better job. Thank you so much for that too. During the campaign of this year, I'm so happy that I received numerous phone calls, emails from all parts of communities. And I saw that people from different communities, from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, they were very eager to help people, regardless of their religion, who are striving with very harshness problems. And I was feeling, so happy. So I want to share just one anecdote with you tonight from this year's campaigns. I received a phone call from an elderly woman, and she said me that, actually she asked about the campaign of this year. I answered her questions about the campaign, and later she said that since the end of last year's campaign, she started knit blankets for Syrian refugees. assumingly she was around 70 years old, something, and she said she knit 9 blankets since last year. And I think this is amazing. I am sure Syrian refugees will know that, and they will always feel, warm gifts and friendships of their American friends. They will never forget that, I think. Personally, every night when my kids go to bed, I go after them to check on them. And if needed, I cover them with blankets. And always, I imagine the situation of Syrian kids. And I put myself in the shoes of Syrian parents, fathers, because they have nothing to cover their kids, especially in the harshness time of the winter. But now, thank you so much to you all, because maybe not all of them, but at least some of them will get your gifts, very meaningful gifts. And I am sure when they cover their kids with those meaningful gifts, they will always remember you, and they will never forget their American friends' helping hands. And again, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much to be a part of this campaign. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. And folks, that's all you'll hear from us for the time being, and you can enjoy your meals, and after that I'm going to have to butt in, and you're going to have to hear us talk again. Loudoun County Chairman Scott York. And Fairfax Board of Supervisors Chairman Sharon Belova. And also, we also have Supervisor Martin Nohe from Prince William County. And although Senator Kane could not be here tonight with us, he did contribute to the campaign, and he's represented here by Joe Montana. Thank you, folks. And now we can get started with our speakers portion of the evening. I'd like to start with Chairman Belova. She's been to Turkey. She's set up bonds of friendship between Turkey and Fairfax County. And she's been so supportive of the activities and especially this humanitarian campaign. So I'd like to take a few minutes and listen to her remarks about the initiative. Please welcome Chairman Sharon Belova.
Thank you so much. And Fairfax County did a few years ago establish a sister city relationship with Keçiören in Ankara, Turkey. And so I've had the opportunity to visit Turkey. I was received so warmly, and really we have established a very, very warm relationship, which led to more elected officials visiting Turkey and then actually visiting the camps where the Syrian refugees are living. And I would like to thank the Turkish people for their generosity in taking in as many Syrian refugees as they have. This is a dire, difficult time, and children, families are really struggling in Turkey, but all over Europe and the Middle East right now. This is the third year that we have done the blanket drive, and it has grown larger so that it is a blanket, a jacket, and a coat drive. And I have to say that this year has turned out to be the most generous year that I remember. And our office was a collection location, and twice we had to call and have people pick up the contributions because we couldn't get in our front office. There were so many blankets and jackets and coats. It was just really phenomenal. You may hear this again, but let me just say, I understand that we doubled the number or the weight of blankets, et cetera, that we collected. And Bob Lazaro said that it is 5 times the height of the Eiffel Tower that we have collected in blankets. So that's pretty phenomenal. It really says something, I think, about our region. And it says something about the American Turkish Friendship Association. They were the ones who got us together. They were the ones who reached out and invited us to learn more about Turkey, invited us to learn more about their culture, and we've done that. And it's been a wonderful way, first of all, of working with them, but also it's brought the region together. And so you heard introduced Prince William County, Loudoun County, but this has also included Manassas, the city of Fairfax. Many of our different counties and cities have come together and have been so moved and have been so appreciative of being able to make our small contribution to what is a crisis in the world. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to all of the faith communities, especially our stakes in Fairfax County, our churches of the Latter-day Saints, as well as other faith communities and religions. This has been a multi-denominational, multi-religion effort. Really, everyone has come together, and it's been a pleasure to have been able to participate. So thank you so much, and I really have enjoyed the opportunity to come and celebrate with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Blow. I know you're running on a very tight schedule, so thanks for taking time to be here with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Northern Virginia Regional Commission has been one of the main supporters of the humanitarian campaign for Syrian refugees. So to represent them, we have the Executive Director, Mark Gibbs. Please welcome him to the stage.
Well, I didn't know they were going to show that in the video, but I brought this coat to show you that it absolutely is true. This is this coat my son wore when he was in middle school, and we really were saving it for his little son who's about 6 years old when he got big enough to wear it. And my wife came down and handed me this coat, and she said, let's give it to them. You know, there's a movie that I love. It's about a fictitious rock band, and they have a hit record, and they become famous. And they were playing in lots of pizza parlors, and then they became famous, and were playing in front of a national audience. And the girls were screaming. This was back in the 60s, and it's a movie. It's just not true, but I always remember this one line where the guitar player leans over to the drummer and says, "How did we get here?" And that's kind of how I feel tonight. How did we get here? This has been a most interesting journey with all the elected officials here tonight who I had the privilege of traveling to Turkey. We've had some other international visits to other places in the world, but all of us say that the visit to Turkey was the most memorable, and it continues to have those kinds of huge opportunities for all of us. And just as the video said, not only have we helping other people now, but it has brought our community together like no other experience I've enjoyed here in Northern Virginia. I would like to recognize a few people that are here tonight. Bob Lazaro. Bob, if you'd stand up. And Bob is former mayor of Purcellville. And I think between Marty Noe and myself and Scott York and Bob, we were there in Adana at the tent city, and we were saying, you know, how are we going to help these people? And they wanted some blankets, and we decided we didn't. You know, we said, well, let's do it. We didn't know if we were going to get 50 or 500. I don't think we ever would have imagined 100,000 blankets in the hour. But you know, it's just been a marvelous experience. And I also want to recognize another person, Scott Wheatley. Scott, if you'd stand up and be recognized. Scott is the leader of the LDS Church here in kind of central Fairfax, and I had the privilege of being with him this past Saturday, and literally we filled 2 moving vans full of blankets and coats, and over 1,000 boxes. And they're still coming in? Do I have this right? Something like that?
They're boxing them there tonight again.
Well, what are you doing here? You should be there. Oh, I see. I'm glad you're here. The stories are unbelievable. Bob knows someone came into our office and had made 50 baby blankets. My neighbor across the street came over and brought these beautiful coats. They were brand new, very brand name coats. And I said, you're giving these coats? And he said, they need nice coats too. And then I heard of the story of one gentleman that went to the store and said, I'd like to buy some blankets. And he said, well, which ones? He said, all of them. All of them. That's the kind of generosity that we have here in our community. And I don't know what you did, but in my neighborhood, I passed these flyers out, and I put a basket or a tub out in front of my garage. And every day I'd come home, and they were filled with jackets and coats. We live in an amazing place, ladies and gentlemen. I can't thank you enough for all of your support. We love working with this American Turkish Friendship Association. They have just been marvelous to work with. I can't say enough about them. But to answer your question, how did we get here? I don't know, but I'm glad we're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gibb, and we'll make sure that goes in one of the boxes too. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, he was one of the first visitors on the initial trip that went to the actual Syrian refugee camp and decided to come up with the idea of having this blanket drive. So without his contributions and his efforts, this drive would not have been possible. So please welcome Loudoun County Chairman Scott York to make his remarks.
I'll keep this really short because after about the second speaker, you've heard probably about everything there is to hear about the particular trip. Although I will add one side note to this. Those of us who went on this particular trip, the bus made up of 2 Muslims, 2 Mormons, 2 Catholics, and 2 Baptists. Somewhere there might be a joke. I don't know. But you can't help when you see a need to come away and think of the situation and how dire the need is to not want to help. It was a huge effort in that how do we do something but get it to them other than potentially raising funds? And to that end, I have to, the comments I will add on and the thanks are to both Paxton Van Line and Mayor Shipping. Without them, we couldn't even do this, so thank you very much. And just note, they have not collected a penny for anything that they've done in these 3 years. And this year, right now, we're estimating over 100,000 pounds of blankets and coats to be shipped over to Turkey. That is a huge effort, and so we appreciate that effort by them. Let me just, I'll just conclude my comments by simply thanking the American Turkish Friendship Association for the friendship that we have established over these last 3 years with you. I certainly appreciated the dialogue we have had, the camaraderie that we have had, the effort of doing this humanitarian effort. And this will be my last opportunity to work with you as chairman of Loudoun County, but not to participate in next year's effort. To that end, I do have some leftover campaign money, and I'd like to pledge $1,000 toward this effort this year. So just let me know where to send a check to, and hint, hint, Sharon Bulova. No. Yeah, Marty. But anyway, thank you very much for all of you who have helped us out in this effort. We couldn't do it without you. And we're so grateful as a team to those throughout the Northern Virginia region, throughout the country, who have, over the last 3 years, dug into their closets, dug into their wallets to make this a successful effort. And may God bless this world that one day our efforts won't be needed, and that people throughout the world can live in peace and live with a full stomach. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for your kind words and your kind donation. And I was thinking, since Judaism, considering Judaism as the father of all of our Abrahamic faiths, I guess we're all Jews from the beginning. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Embrace Relief, you've seen it in the video as well. They're the humanitarian organization that is actually also collecting blankets and dealing with the logistics in Turkey. So we have the CEO of the organization, Osman Dulgeroğlu. Please welcome Mr. Dulgeroğlu to the stage for his remarks.
Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be here tonight with you. I would like to thank the ATFA and Rumi Forum for bringing us together tonight in this charitable event. And I would like to thank Northern Virginia Regional Commission for starting this campaign. They have came up with this idea first, and they asked to us, if we collect the blankets, are you able to distribute those to the refugees in Turkey? And thanks God, we said yes. And we have started this campaign 3 years earlier. I would like to thank the Paxton Landline and also Maersk for their great help on delivering of the blankets from United States to Turkey. The civil war in Syria forced millions to flee their countries and find new homes in surrounding nations, in Turkey, Lebanon, Iraq, and Jordan. In Turkey by itself, hosting over 2.2 million refugees. Approximately 250,000 of them living in refugee camps, and the rest are living on their own in different cities all over the Turkey. 4 or 5 families are renting one family home and trying to survive. As Embrace Relief, with our sister organization Kimse Yok Mu in Turkey, till now we have delivered over $30 million aid to Syrian refugees, including the food, clothing, furniture, and all other needs. And previous year, it's already mentioned, we have collected $100,000 cash and also around 25,000 blankets. The blankets has been distributed to the cities close to Syria, and the money has been used to distribute a hot meal to 4,000 refugees living in Kilis for 1 month. So a portion of the money has been used for this, and the rest used to purchase again food and distribute food packages to the families living in different cities. And thank you for the Mark and Scott was there previous year, Mustafa, and also another Scott. We went together and visit those refugees. Hopefully, we will go this year again. I hope you will take the coat with you and find the refugee kids to fit to that coat. And yeah. And this year, we decided to add another item to our campaign. It is a school project. Right after this campaign, we are starting this school project because it's another challenge for the refugees. In Turkey, we have 400,000 refugee kids. They are in school age, but are not able to attend to school. They don't have school. They are not able to go to Turkish school because their family doesn't have any plan. And also, the schools are not accepting them because they don't speak Turkish. So many organizations, non-profits like us, are opening schools. They are not regular schools, of course. They are renting some, let's say, the business centers and these type of places, and they convert it to the classrooms. Syrian teachers are educating Syrian kids in their language. They are getting additionally just Turkish classes to be able to communicate in Turkey. So we are starting our school project. It's gonna cost us $80,000 to have a high school, girls' school, just for girls, high school for 240 kids. We will pay the rent and also the salary for the teachers. Then they will not need to work outside to take care of their family. They will just pay it. It's just very cheap. I mean, as a school, you are running school for 240 kids, high schoolers, and it's going to cost us $80,000, and it's going to be in Kilis. I believe it's very important education because it's going to cost the losing of a generation. It has been already 4 years, and they are not able to go to any school. I would like to thank all of you for being here and for supporting this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zongeroglu, and we hope the school, the campaign to build a school will be as successful, at least as successful as the Syrian blanket drive has been for the last 3 years. Half of the room has been invited by Rumi Forum, and you guys are all probably wondering where is this guy Emre Çelik, but he is here, and I am inviting him next. So please welcome the president of Rumi Forum, Sir Emre Çelik, to make his remarks.
Just asking why people have been complaining. Oh, it's not complaining enough because you just said you're usually first to go. So next time, complain louder maybe. But you're very lucky. I will surmise very briefly. The Rumi Forum is really among giants here. We're kind of the younger brother or sister to the other organizations. We've done our best, but really hats off to our other partners. They've gone to extreme lengths to accommodate all types of organizations, individuals, families, whether they've been raising or collecting in front of their own doorsteps, through churches, through government organizations. Again, you've heard the thanks. It's crucial that we all lend a hand. I thank each and every one of you. Your support, spiritual, material, moral, financial, or otherwise, is of the utmost importance to us, but more so to the individuals that you've seen on the screen over the last 2-3 years. I had the difficult journey of visiting the border. I went twice to Kilis as part of our Rumi Forum trips, and the circumstances are dire. We went during the time when the weather was appropriate and warm, and we're entering winter, and you all know how difficult winter here is on the East Coast, here in the DC area. So, and I know by virtue of your support, the levels of empathy reflect in the success of the campaign. But my request is that when we start looking at this again at the new year, that you take this message beyond the four walls, maybe beyond the four corners really, but beyond at least these four walls, to those that have not come into contact. We've got another 10, 11 months. We say in the Islamic tradition, Bismillah, in the name of God, we start. So we'll start again looking at this in January, February. So please, for those that haven't heard of this, for those that have missed the opportunity, we look forward to new friends in 2016. So again, thank you, and have a most prosperous and blessed evening. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chedik. And ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we have our keynote speaker, and he's going to share with us the difficulties the Syrian refugees and the other Iraqi refugees face these days, and why, which makes this campaign, or any campaign that's helping refugees, even more significant. Please welcome Dr. Simon Henshaw from he's a Deputy Principal Assistant Secretary at the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration at the U.S. Department of State.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for inviting me here tonight. I'm so honored to speak before these organizations, and it strikes me what a symbol you all are of the multiculturalism which makes this country so great. We pluribus unum, out of many one great country. A few weeks ago, the image of a drowned Syrian toddler on a beach in Turkey awakened the conscience of the world. It dramatized the plight of Syrian refugees in ways that years of bleak images and climbing casualty figures could not. Europeans passed out water and sandwiches, and people around the world set up online donation sites. The number of asylum seekers surged. More refugees and migrants arrived in Europe in October than in all of last year. Of course, their desperate and often tragic stories are part of a tragedy unrivaled in our lifetime, and one well known to the Turkish people, and all of you here as well: the violent unraveling of Syria. The reason hundreds of thousands of people risk their lives in inflatable dinghies on rolling seas is that the alternative seems worse. Inside Syria, no one is safe. The regime's bombs and shells that have reduced hospitals, schools, homes, and whole neighborhoods to rubble continue to maim and kill. ISIL has tightened its grip on a broad swath of the country, enslaving the population, slaughtering those it suspects of being insufficiently fanatic, and attempting to erase history. Syria's ever metastasizing violence has not spared children. Nearly 5 years ago, children were thrown in jail and abused for writing anti-government slogans on the wall of their school. Their parents protested, and the regime cracked down brutally against protesters. Since then, thousands and thousands of Syrian children have perished. Many others have fled. More than half the 4 million Syrian refugees are under the age of 18. Despite the media spotlight on Europe, the vast majority of Syrian refugee families, 96% have remained in the Middle East. Most are in Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon. I don't need to tell this crowd that fact, but as you well know, Turkey alone has taken in 2 million Syrian refugees. The generosity and compassion of the Turkish American community shown here tonight mirrors the generosity shown by so many in Turkey. From the start of this conflict, the people of Turkey have opened their hearts and their homes. They have treated Syrian refugees like sisters and brothers. Their compassion has saved countless lives. Providing food, shelter, health care, and other services to so many in need has been challenging and costly, especially as the war drags on, dimming hope that refugees can go home soon. I do believe that Turkey's humanitarian actions will remain as an example to the world for years to come. For refugees themselves, years of exile, tedium, and frustration have whittled life down to a daily struggle for survival. Most live in cities and are trying to fend for themselves. Few speak Turkish, and most are unable to get permits to work legally. Their savings are exhausted, and many are falling deeper and deeper into poverty. The UN agencies that provide food, shelter, and medical care are chronically underfunded. This year, the United Nations appealed for $8.4 billion from donor countries to care for Syrians both inside Syria and in neighboring countries. So far, it has received less than half that amount. Over the summer, the World Food Program was running out of money and needed to cut food aid in half for more than 1 million vulnerable Syrian refugees. That meant that children went to bed hungry. But the most insidious punishment of this war has been inflicted on Syrian families, is that it has robbed millions of children of the chance to get an education. Before the war, nearly all Syrian children attended school. Today, most do not. In countries hosting most Syrian refugees, more than half of all school-age Syrian children are not in school. Syrian refugees I visited in Turkey had many concerns gnawing at them. They told me how they wanted to support their families but could not find jobs. They said their cramped, run-down apartments were too expensive, and they worried about their children's future. In Turkey, nearly 2/3 of all school-age Syrian children, refugee children, close to 400,000, are not in school. This includes children who should be finishing elementary school but have never stepped inside a classroom, middle school-age kids who are forgetting how to read and do math, and many young people who are on the verge of earning degrees and launching careers but have seen their plans swept ahead. Like many refugee children my colleagues and I have met on their trips to the region, 15-year-old Hamid has been out of school for more than 4 years. Hamid's dream is to become an astronaut. But since fleeing from Syria, he has needed to work to help support his family. So he spends his days distributing propane tanks. He told us, I have to learn in order to be an astronaut. But the last time I was in school was in 5th grade. I can barely remember it now, and now I have forgotten most of the skills I learned. In Turkish cities and towns, the State Department funds community centers for refugees. Counselors there try to get kids back into classrooms, but they say families face a hard choice. If their kids don't work, they say their families don't eat. Kids can't get away with working illegally, whereas adults are more likely to be caught and punished. Boys take menial jobs when they're as young as 10 or 11, and some work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. But when families do not rely on children's earnings, even when there is space for them in local schools, many parents cannot afford uniforms, books, or transportation. This is the problem for Maya. She's been out of school for 4 years, as have her 3 sisters. Can you imagine what it would cost for all 4 of us to go? She asked our delegation. She speaks nearly fluent English and explained that she learned it watching movies and reading books. She and her friends worry about having to get married instead of finishing their education. Children and young people like Hamid and Maya should not have their dreams and their potential wasted. What happens to millions of Syrian children matters, not just to them, not just to their families and their shattered nation, but to all who hope for peace and prosperity in this volatile region and beyond. Our government is working hard to respond to these and other needs. The United States is a leading donor to humanitarian operations around the world, including programs that aid Syrian refugees. Since the start of Syria's war, we have provided more than $4.5 billion for essentials like food, water, sanitation, shelter, and medical care. With our support, international organizations like UNICEF and the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, and a variety of non-governmental organizations work in camps, cities, and towns to provide services and opportunities to children and to get them back to school. National governments in host countries, including Turkey, are scrambling to provide more opportunities for Syrian children. Faced with severe shortages of classrooms, schools in many places now run in double shifts. Local children come in the morning, and Syrian children arrive after lunch and attend on holidays and weekends. Turkey's government has pledged to offer every Syrian refugee child a seat at public school. My boss, Assistant Secretary of State Ann Richard, recently traveled to Adana and cut the ribbon to inaugurate a new UNICEF school with space for over 2,000 students, and just one of 13 built with U.S. funding. The U.S. government is also helping UNICEF distribute furniture and classroom materials and pay stipends to Syrian teachers in exile. They help meet the enormous demand for trained educators who speak Arabic. For children who are not able to enroll in public schools, the United States government helps fund alternatives, including informal, accelerated, and remedial education and vocational training. International organizations and NGOs we support also provide safe spaces for children to learn and play. Community centers we fund also provide counseling services. Teachers and social workers say when Syrian kids first arrive, many are sullen, aggressive, or scared of loud noises. But soon they begin to find friends, to laugh, to trust, and to learn. These centers also offer psychological support to adults, including the many who have suffered trauma and gender-based violence. Education and other services can heal families and change the trajectory of young lives. But traditional donors and humanitarian organizations cannot meet all these needs alone. From the beginning of this crisis, you have understood this. Diaspora organizations and local NGO partners, with their grassroots reach and expertise, have provided a lifeline to refugees, offering not just blankets and coats, food and medicine, shelter and cash assistance, but proof the world cares. We in the U.S. government hope many others will follow your example. We are working to forge new partnerships and to engage the private sector in ways we haven't before. Partnerships with corporate donors, foundations, diaspora groups, and ordinary citizens. We envision new ways of sharing not just resources, but innovative ideas and ways to use new technology. We want to meet day-to-day needs, but in addition, we want to give refugees what so many sorely need: dignity, opportunity, and hope for the future. Education is vital to restoring hope. I was thrilled to learn that money being raised here will also help build a new school for Syrian refugee children, and that the groundbreaking will take place soon. Because education is also a priority for the State Department. For the past 2 years, we have been working with other donors, international and non-governmental organizations on an initiative called the No Lost Generation. It raises awareness and galvanizes resources to help children affected by the war. Now we are launching No Lost Generation 2.0. The goal is to quicken the pace and get hundreds of thousands more kids into school. All of us understand that no child should grow up abused, exploited, haunted by fear, shaped by violence, or deprived of the chance to learn. 15-year-old Hamid and his friends say they do not want to be part of a lost generation. Hamid points to the differences he already sees between kids languishing in the streets or stuck in dead-end jobs and kids who manage to go back to school. He says kids who work are aggressive, but school kids are calm, and the teachers help them understand the difference between right and wrong. Hamid worries if too much time passes, he will miss his chance to return to school. But he says, I can catch up. I think there's hope. Despite their wounds and the burdens they carry, Syrians are not giving up, nor will we give up on them. Thank you so much for what you are doing, for this Coat and Blanket Drive, and for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you, too, for speaking out about the plight of Syrian refugees long before most people were paying attention. And thank you for giving people a real, tangible way to translate their compassion into action by helping refugees keep warm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Henshaw, for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming near the end of our evening. We're moving on to the award ceremony section. But before I do so, I just want to make a couple announcements. There is Ebru, or water marbling art, in the hallway, and funds collected from that will also go towards the campaign, so feel free to take a look at the amazing art outside. And also, on your way out, don't forget to validate your tickets. If you like, there is a high boy table outside that you can validate your parking tickets from. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Bob Lazaro to the stage to present the award. Please welcome Bob Lazaro.
See if I get this right. Merhaba, friends. I still remember. It's really appropriate just to take the opportunity to say thank you. And tonight's first award, if I could ask my friend Osman to come to the stage. Osman? There he is. Proud to call him a friend. No finer fellow on the ground in Turkey and other places. He said, would you like to join me in Orbil? I said, well, maybe not this time, but I'm happy to be able to stand here tonight and to say, on behalf of everyone, Osman, thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to working with you this year and the next. Congratulations.
And now, please welcome our director, Mr. Vanad Kaplan, to present his award.
It's my pleasure calling Mark Gibb, Executive Director of Northern Virginia Regional Commission, to give her to extend him his award. Mark Gibb, please, yes.
Thank you, Mark Gibb and Mr. Kaplan again. And also, please welcome Mr. Emre Çelik from the Rumi Forum.
On behalf of Maersk Line, I'd like to call upon Scott York to accept his award for his contribution.
And last but not least, please welcome Mr. Scott Wheatley to the stage to present his award as well.
Mr. Allison. I hope everybody understands that this blanket drive could not happen without Paxton Van Lines and Paxton Companies. We're grateful to Bill Paxton for his support. He's been involved in this from the very beginning. Mr. Bill Allison here from Paxton Van Lines, and it's an honor and a privilege to give you this award. Rick Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Whitley. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our evening. Thank you again for being here tonight. And seeing how things are going in Syria, we'll most likely have another blanket drive next year, unfortunately. And we're looking forward to your donations and contributions. And thank you again for taking time and being here tonight. Have a great evening. And for our organizers and participants, we invite them on stage for a family picture. Enjoy the rest of your night. Indiriyor muyuz? Üstü kalkıyor. Dur. Alttan tut.
Şöyle biraz götürsene. Götür. Nereye gidiyor?
Ama şeyi çıkartacak.